Trump was convinced by someone, probably the Treasury Secretary, to de-escalate the trade war with China sufficiently that would at least allow trade negotiations to happen and avoid, during the negotiation process, severe damage to both economies. I previously discussed that a reduction in the U.S. tariff on China's exports from 145% to 80% or 50% would likely be unacceptable to China. Those kind of rates would be almost equivalent to a boycott, uh, same effect as a boycott. To convince China to temporarily lower its tariff rates from 125%, the U.S. had to find a number sufficiently low for its tariffs to be acceptable to China. The result is that both sides agreed to reduce their reciprocal, and I should put that in quotes, tariffs by 115% for 90 days. While many view that as a capitulation by Trump, which is the case in my opinion, I really only care that the U.S. has done something that may avert a recession. The reciprocal tariff rates for both sides were reduced to 10%, with the U.S. keeping its 20% fentanyl related tariff. It is my understanding that there are some sector-specific products that will have higher or lower tariffs than that reciprocal tariff rate of 10%. For example, phone and semiconductor chip shipments from China were exempted from the U.S. reciprocal tariff. And in response to the fentanyl tariff, China did have a few product specific tariffs, including 15% for liquefied natural gas in coal shipments from the U.S. And those still may be in existence. I was not able to find out whether those tariffs would be in addition to the 10% reciprocal tariff that China will have for at least the next 90 days. It would make sense to me that they would be in addition to the 10% reciprocal tariff, since they are related to the 20% fentanyl tariff that the U.S. is keeping for now. China also agreed to roll back some retaliatory actions like placing export controls on rare minerals, and that is an important item that the U.S. received from China. Based on the reaction in the stock market, which is appropriately positive today, investors have also formed an opinion that the worst is over in the China trade war, and there will not be a re-escalation in the tariff war back to more extreme tariff levels that amount to a boycott of each other's products or close to it. Even if there is no trade agreement deal negotiated in 90 days, and no one should expect a deal within that time period, what will Trump do if he becomes dissatisfied with the progress after 90 days? He is prone to making impulsive actions without considering the implications. One response would be to start hiking the 10% reciprocal tariff again if he's dissatisfied with the progress. So I don't think that the reacceleration of the tariff war is off the table given Trump's personality. 30% tariff on most exports, China exports, will have an inflation impact on U.S. consumer prices for the impacted products. While the lower China tariffs on U.S. exports will allow trade to resume, there will be significant long-term damage to many U.S. product exports to China, as China will respond to the clear signal that is being sent by the U.S. that trade is a weapon, with China's response being, as it has been in the past, to reduce reliance on U.S. exports as much as possible. This will make it more difficult to achieve a more balanced trade with China in the future. In the much smaller tariff war that Trump started with China in his first term, China permanently increased its non-U.S. sourcing for certain U.S. farm products like soybeans, a topic that I discussed in a prior video, which I will link in the more section below. I expect that decoupling process to continue even if a trade deal is negotiated. I have mentioned several times here and in my blog that I would time some reductions in my common stock and or stock funds when the VIX return to below 20 movement, which I now anticipate will happen today as of the close or sometime this week. I will target reductions only when the price for whatever is being sold is higher than the closing price on 2/19/25 when the S&P hit its all-time high of 6,147. I will generally own 200 to 200 individual common stocks and several stock funds. I also mentioned previously that I would consider waiting to make any sales even after both conditions have been met if I viewed it as likely that a rally would continue after those conditions are met. And I expect that will happen now. The optimism generated by the agreement with China will continue for at least several days, possibly weeks, and I will delay the first reduction for at least several days after both conditions are met, and then we'll probably space out reductions over time. And by time, I'm referring to a on a weekly basis rather than a daily basis.